You guys ready to go? I'm ready. I am pumped to get this guy on so we can start talking to him. I'm really excited about it. Lauren, are you going to read that bio for us?
Nope. Thought I'd save it.
Oh.
Yes. Oh, shush. Got this. Hold on. Okay. Alright. Trying to finish up. Okay. Join Night Colors Bigfoot Radio as we hear from Ryan Redding from New York. He resides
I think
in
it's reading. I think it's reading.
Woman.
I'm sorry.
Seriously? I'm going to let you read it from now on. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Reading resides in a smaller community on Lake Erie. Oh, go ahead. What's that one?
In Chautauqua County. Or it might be Chautauqua.
Oh, no.
We'll ask him when he comes on. Okay.
Okay, in New York. He attended college at Jamestown Community College for Business and SUNY College for Economics. He currently has 3 children and owns 2 German Shepherds. Hunting and fishing are what he grew up doing, and he considers himself an outdoorsman. He started researching the cryptid subject, specifically Bigfoot, after having a sighting in 2013. Since then, he has encountered the Bigfoot species on several occasions and has had a total of 5 visual sightings. Like many after his sightings, he wanted answers, but there was really no one to turn to. Hence, he started his research. He usually goes into the field 3 to 4 times per week. He created a journal of dates and times relating to his research and hoped to gain a better understanding of how and why the Sasquatch move in certain areas. He has used many tactics in the field. He has recently spoke with the Forestry Department and filed for certain permits to gain special privileges on state properties to continue his research. Currently, he has collaborated with the New York University to test field specimens in hopes to gain DNA of this elusive creature. In 2015, he shared their evidence in a documentary called I've Seen Bigfoot. In conclusion, they do share some of their thoughts and work via YouTube and Twitter at Western New York Bigfoot, and on Facebook at Bridging the Gap Between Sasquatch and Woo. He feels that changing the way people look at this subject should be one of our goals as researchers. The best way to do that is certain social media platforms. In the upcoming years, they hope to collaborate with many researchers on different levels to share their thoughts and findings in hope of putting this puzzle together. He encourages anyone in New York who has had a sighting to contact the Western New York Bigfoot Association via the Internet. Join us as we hear from Ryan Reading.
Thank you. Thank you for reading that intro. And if anybody has a question for our guest tonight, please call in. The number is 347-989-0313. That's 347-989-0313. And now we're bringing on our guest, Ryan Reading of New York. How are you doing tonight, Ryan?
Hello. How are you?
We're doing just fine. Is it Ryan Reading?
It is.
And how do you pronounce Chautauqua? Is that right? Chautauqua County?
Well, that's close. It's Chautauqua County, but that's actually like a Indian. It's Iroquois. It actually has a meaning. The meaning for it is a bag tied in the middle, whatever that means. But it is Chautauqua.
Wow. Chautauqua. Okay. It did sound Indian to me. I thought it did. Well, and I apologize if we didn't say it correctly. So, how are you doing tonight? And thank you for coming on.
Good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. I see that you started the subject of Bigfoot in 2013 when you had a sighting. Prior to this sighting, did you have any knowledge about Bigfoot or believe or anything like that?
I was never a believer in the subject. I never really paid too much attention to it at all until 2013. I used to go out a lot, do a lot of metal detecting, go to the old home sites, find the old cellar holes, and kind of get on the map and get out in the woods. That's what I did. And in 2013, that's exactly what I was doing when I had my first sighting.
What can you tell us about it?
So, basically what I did is I'd go online, I'd pull up some of the 1800 maps, find a location where I wanted to go. I actually found a place probably 25 minutes from where I live. Headed out there for the day, actually took my dog with me. There's like a parking area kind of nearby where this old house was. So I parked the vehicle, I went out in the woods. There's a old well in the vicinity. It's kind of a bigger old home structure. So I kind of detected by the well for maybe a good hour and a half, finding stuff along the way, whatever it was. I tied the dog up probably, roughly 75, 80 yards away from me. I didn't want him kind of running loose because he would get tangled in the metal detector. He'd come around and, wreak havoc.
Mm-hmm.
So I just tied him up away, and what I did is I went to work from the well. I tried to work back toward the actual homestead where the old cellar hole was. So I started walking that direction, which was a little uphill. As I got near the foundation, there was like this low-lying branch that I had to sort of duck under. And on the other side of that would be the side of the structure, and it was kind of cleared out, like a little field, maybe 15 by 15, and I said, I can detect in there, not have any issues, the coil won't get tangled up. So as I proceeded under the branch, I kind of looked up that hill. I ended up doing a double take, and what I saw, now I know was a juvenile Sasquatch. It was looking at me, I was looking at it. It was kind of halfway out from behind the tree. When it noticed that I actually knew what it was, seen it or locked eyes with it, let's say, it curled its bottom lip down as it stepped out from behind the tree. So the bottom lip curled down. I was able to see like all of its lower teeth. They were squared off. There was no type of canine exposure in the teeth. They were all square. And at that time, it was turning. So it was turning away from me. I was able to see its hand. The head really didn't have what you would call the sagittal crest. It was kind of round, more chimp-like. It was all black, real. I don't know how to say this. Skinnier. It was lanky. That would be the word for it. Would be lanky.
Right.
But as it turned, I was able to see its hand, and its hand, looks just like ours. Where they always ask, is the thumb opposable and stuff like that. But the hand looked, just like a human hand. So as it turned around, it went down on all fours, and it shot up the hill at a high rate of speed. It probably covered 150 yards or something like that in five seconds. It was fast. And I kind of just stood there in shock for a second, and I didn't really know what to do. Yeah, I definitely didn't know what to do. And my first reaction was to say hello. I said hello, really loud. And at that time, it kind of kicked into my brain, run, just leave. So I ran back. I grabbed my dog, got in the vehicle, went to the house, got home. I just laid on the couch for a little while. I didn't really tell anyone about this situation because it's kind of hard. You don't know who to turn to. You don't know how to get it out. So finally, when I did tell a few of my family members, you kind of get the reaction that, you're crazy and stuff like that.
You saw a bear, you saw a bear. Yeah. Right.
Well, some of my family did say that, but I'm a hunter, and I kind of know what the animals look like. I know what they are in the area per se, stuff like that. So it was totally different. But based on my family's reaction of saying, hey, I seen a Sasquatch, I seen a Bigfoot, based on that reaction, that's kind of why I kept it quiet until 2014 when I had my second sighting.
So this didn't keep you from going out into the woods?
It did for a little while, yes.
Okay.
Especially alone, I'll say that. I did go back out and, do some detecting here and there or, hunting. I tried to just push it in the back of my mind the best as I could. And it faded away for a little while, but 2014 just surfaced everything back together when we had the second sighting.
Were you by yourself the second time, or was someone with you?
I was with a friend of mine. He actually passed away. God rest his soul. But
I'm sorry.
Thank you. We had gone to this same location. It's probably about 5,000 acres, but there's multiple access points where you can access the property. So what we did that day is we just picked a different structure, a home structure, which happened to be roughly 1.5 miles to 2 miles, as the crow flies, on the other end. So it's an area. It's really hard to explain unless I had a map. But anyway, we had gone up. We had gone up there to do some detecting. We got there around 2:00 in the afternoon. Nice day. It was May, so we probably detected for roughly around 2 hours, and we took a smoke break, kind of like there's a huge apple tree. So we got out of the sun into the shade for a little bit. We were talking, and while we were there, I asked him a serious question. I said, "Hey, Bri, you got like a weird feeling?" And he was like, "No, why? I'm good. What's up?" Those were his exact words. And I said, "I don't know. I mean, you got that feeling like we're being watched?" And he was like, "No." And at that time, 2 hikers had walked by, a lady in a pink coat and a gentleman in a yellow jacket. And, they waved and they kept on going. The trail there's like a huge trail system, that you can walk. It's roughly 3 or 4 miles long. So we've seen them, walk off. We finished our cigarette, and I was just like, just keep a heads up because I don't know why I'm getting that feeling or that inclination. So we probably, so he said, "Hey, I'm going to head off. I'm going to go across the trail. I'm going to go detect in the other side of the woods." I said, "All right, well, I'm having luck over here because I, got a few things. I'm going to stick on this side." So after around another 2.5 hours, it was roughly 6:00 now, 6:30ish, the sun was starting to set. I started working my way back out to the trail, and he's actually coming out of the opposite side. So we're working toward each other. He actually makes it to the trail before I did. He looks up the trail, and he starts saying something. And I had a headset on because, it's easier to hear your tones with your metal detector.
Right.
So I pulled off the ear cup, and I said, "What'd you say?" And he's like, "Look," and he's pointing, up this trail. So I turn and I look, and I'm like, what is that? Now the trail, it's not like, it's wide. It's like a wide open swath where you can ride snowmobiles. So it's clear. There's no obstructions in our view. So at this time, he walks up to me, and we're standing shoulder to shoulder. And as we do that, we're looking at this thing maybe 150 yards from us. And I can't really make out what it is because it's in a crouched position, kind of like a linebacker position. And all of a sudden, it stands up. And when it stood up, I thought it was never going to end. It seemed like it was getting taller and taller. And at that point, we were just both like, whoa, we were in shock. Like, he kept saying, "What is that? What is that?" I'm cupping my hands over my eyes to, try to get a better glimpse of, what this is, and I can see the detail. It's massive. It's gigantic. It's probably 3.5 foot wide. You could see the arm ripples. You could see how big the legs were. It was jet black. It kind of had like a V taper shape to it. Huge chest. I was able to see. It had like a cone-shaped head to it, but it wasn't, like a full peak. You could see where they say the brow ridge across the eyes. It was really thick and massive. I couldn't exactly see it. It was really thick up there. And we probably stared at it for roughly 40 seconds. But the hard part was seeing this for me. It was bringing back the original sighting. So as I'm seeing this one, they both come flooding through, and he keeps saying, what is that? What is that? I'm like, Brian, that's a Bigfoot. And he's got the shovel, the detecting shovel in his hand. He's got it like across his chest. And I'm like, dude, just put that down. You're not going to do anything with that. And he's like in a state of panic. I could tell. And all of a sudden what happens is it turns, and its right leg kind of swings out from it, and it takes 2 steps off the trail, off into the woods. And as it proceeds to go into the woods, there's like some pine trees, and they've got the overhanging branches that kind of hang out onto the trail a little bit. Well, the Sasquatch hit its head on its way out, and the branch was like shaking, violently. And I was like, wow, that kind of like stuck in my mind. So we kind of headed out of there. I'm like, Brian, we got to go. And he's like, dude, I don't know what that was. And, we just kind of, I knew what it was because that was my second time. He was still kind of like in shock. So we headed back. We got to the vehicle, kind of wrapped it up. And on the way home, we talked about it. And I was like, dude, we got to go back there. And like, we need to find out if there's footprints there. We need to find out a lot of things. And I was like, it hit its head on that branch. I was like, I can measure it, all of that. So we tried to go back the next day, but it actually had snowed. So one day it was 60, and then the next day there was snow up there because it is kind of in the hills. So it was roughly maybe 3 days later we got back up there. We were looking around. You could sort of see the impressions in the it's not mud. It's like mud and ryegrass, I would say, together. It's the thick yellow cattail grass. So I couldn't get any prints, but I was able to measure them, and they were roughly 19 inches. So then what I did is I measured where he actually hit his head as he was heading south out of the area, and the height reference was 9'8".
Wow.
So that, when I say it was big, it was very big. So those 2 sightings right there actually are what got me doing what I do today.
Well, I have a question. Did that surprise you that he was 9'8", or did you pretty much guess he was at least that by looking at him?
When I was looking at him, I didn't really try to speculate a size. I just knew it was massive. When you go through something like that, it affects you you go into shock, actually. You've never seen anything that big or that tall there. They're not supposed to exist. And now this is my second time seeing one. So it threw me for a loop. But I'm the type that I like to find answers. So I want to know what it is and why it's there and so on and so forth.
Well, this is interesting because I had the same, I did not believe existed until I saw one, and it put me in shock because, and like you said, they're not supposed to be here. I remember I kept saying that. They're not supposed to be here. And then I knew I saw what I saw, so I was like you. I had to find out what they were. So where did you go from here?
Well, from there, we kind of just...
did your friend continue to work with you on this, or did he say, no, I don't want none of this? What happened?
We talked about it. A few of my friends, I talked with them, and I said, look, we both had this sighting, and then I actually told them about, my first sighting and stuff like that. And a few of my buddies were like, hey, I'll try it. I'm game. Some of them really didn't believe. Some of them seen TV shows before, whatever. And I said, try to look at it logical. So we started going out. You know, our main two areas to this day are still those two areas where I had the first sightings, you know, and with him. But we kind of just put things together. It was slow to start. You know, we were learning. We didn't know what is what, and it took time to put things together. But what I did is that, you know, we put our beliefs aside, per se, in the beginning, and kind of just followed the evidence. We were trying to find the tree structures and trying to find things, but after I had these sightings, that's when we just started researching like crazy. You know, reading books, reading everything online, watching all kinds of videos, trying to learn, and then we found out, you know, hey, there's a huge community out there. There's a lot of people that have had sightings. You know, let's get involved. So that's kind of, you know, it's taken us in this direction.
Okay, and you've had at least 2 other sightings. Can you tell us about those? I know that everyone's going to go, well, what else are you going to talk about after that? Well, let me tell you what. Ryan has a very interesting theory. So we're going to get to that. So what else would you like to share with us before you get to that? You've
sure.
Had some
I've had a few
happen to you.
I definitely have. I've had a few other sightings. One was actually caught on video. We created the YouTube channel kind of just to share on a social platform while doing this research. Like, that's the best way to reach people. You know, the best way to convert a skeptic, a non-believer, is to get them to start seeing it. A lot of people say, well, if you're researching, why are you sharing it? You know, real researchers don't do that. Well, in this day and age, you know, it seems that's the only way to get it out to people. But there was a main area actually near where I had the first sighting, and what I started paying attention to were the structures that they were building. And I was always wondering why at certain times these structures were being added to. And a lot of people will go in the woods and they'll take video of all these structures and they'll just keep on walking, or they'll try to follow them to the next one, to the next one. Well, we did that too. But some of the bigger ones that I noticed they were building at certain times of the year were being added to. And I'm like, you know what, something kind of clicked. You know, being a hunter, I'm like, you know, I tried to apply that. And I'm like, well, they're coming here at this time, so I need to be in this location at this time. So what I started doing was habituating. I started trying to, you know, bring them in, do certain things, try different techniques, and it kind of worked. So I started getting some photos, and I started, you know, having amazing encounters and catching audio. It's overwhelming to start doing that, but it also helps prove your case, you know, because in the beginning I had a lot of people that were non-believers, but a lot of people start to see stuff and they're, you know, then they start to ask questions, and then, you know, they're interested. But near this main structure, I went out one day. I went alone, which I never do. Just something told me to go out. It was July 3rd, actually, 2016. And I got to the structure, and I'm actually videotaping what I'm talking about, and I have to take my backpack off. So I proceeded to set my camera down against a tree, the one I was recording with, and, you know, took my backpack off. I had to get a game camera out of my backpack. So I'm telling the camera, you know, what I'm doing, and then I'm going to walk, you know, 10 or 15 feet back toward the structure and put up this game camera. As I do so, I get to the tree, and I'm trying to position the game camera on the tree, basically to see what direction I want to point it in. As I'm doing that, I look off to my right, maybe about 60 yards, and there happens to be one standing there. I believe it was a female, jet black, more gentle sloping forehead. I was able to see from the lip area up. It's like she was peeking over this foliage looking at me. So I'm frantically trying to get the game camera on, and I'm starting to talk to the camera that I have sitting against the tree over there so, you know, the viewers can hear what's going on.
Right.
As I get the game camera going, she actually walks off, and at this time I'm distraught. So I start to walk back toward the camera, and I'm telling the audience or whoever, hey, this is what just happened. I'm really distraught because I have all these cameras and I wasn't ready. That's the way it always happens. You could have 20 cameras. And yeah, I was really upset.
Or you get the best vocal and you don't have a single recorder going.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead.
So that's fine. So I come home and I proceeded to just upload the video like any other day, and I shared the video online. And I had a few people reach out to me, and they're like, hey, you need to see what's going on in the background of the video there. So what I did is I kind of just put it in the editor, and I brought it up and zoomed it in, and I was like, oh, my Lord. So what you're able to see in this video, I didn't know there was other ones there at the time. I was concentrating on the female, and as I'm talking, to the camera, there seems to be a juvenile that is on the ground, like on all fours. You can kind of see it move along the ground, and it does something with its hand to its mouth. I don't know if it's sign language. I don't know what it is, but it does something. I don't know if it was eating, whatever it was. And next to that, maybe about 15 feet over, you see this big arm. There's a really long arm that kind of starts to flail out to the left in the video. So I don't know if it was grabbing something or testing me to see if I could see it or what it was doing. And then all of a sudden it just stands up really abruptly. Boom. I'm going to say it's roughly 8 foot tall. You could see it's, covered in hair. In the area that I'm at, I thought they were always all black because those are the colors that I had seen until this. This one was more of a cinnamon color, like a reddish. And what it does is it stands there, and it's actually watching me for roughly 20 seconds. It watches me do what I'm doing, and as I start to make my way back to that camera to pick it up off of the tree, he turns around. I say he, I'm guessing, but I didn't see breasts. It turns around. You're able to see it in the video. It turns around, and it shoots off and walks away. And as it does it, the sun that is penetrating through the foliage kind of shimmers the back. It almost makes the back hair look white. But it's interesting. I've had a few people look at it and break it down, and I mean, I know what it is, and a lot of other people do too. So yeah.
Is this video posted anywhere where our listeners can go see it, or is it in your private collection? Oh, it is. Okay.
It is. I did share the breakdown. It's right on my YouTube channel. It's back from July of 2016. So it's way down the page, maybe 80 or something videos way down there. But I think the name of it is Sasquatch Footage by Ryan Reading.
Okay.
They can take a look at that.
And what is the name of your YouTube channel? Western New York Bigfoot, is that it? Or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
And kind of from there, the oddities started happening. I say oddities. A lot of people call it the woo or the paranormal. And in November of 2016, I was actually out hunting. I was sitting in the tree stand. It was starting to get dark. It was still bow season. I think it was around the 5th of November, 5th or 6th. And I'm sitting in the tree stand, and I hear two what are distinct wood knocks. One is off to my left, maybe 200 yards, and then proceeding, I heard one to my right down in the valley. And I was like, wow, because at this time I've been researching. I know what it is. So I just sat really still. And it's getting a little bit dark. The sun is starting to set. It's getting time to almost get out of the woods. And all of a sudden, off to my left, roughly 25, 30 yards, there's an old, like, logging road, maybe good 50 years old, so it's starting to grow totally back in, but it's open. One steps out on my left-hand side, and I look over. I don't know if it knew that I was actually there, but I believe it did. So anyway, it steps out, and I'm kind of like frozen. I don't know what to do. It walks roughly, I don't know, something like 8 or 10 paces, and it lifts its head up, and it kind of makes this gesture. I can hear it breathing. So I hear it take this huge whiff of air in through its nose, like it's got its head tipped back. And I'm like, oh no, it smells me. You know, I'm starting to get panicky here a little bit. Let me add, though, that I do carry ozonics machine that I put in the tree with me while I hunt. So I don't know if it was smelling
What
this
is
ozonics.
that? What is that?
The ozonics machine it's an ozone generator. And basically what it does is it's supposed to lower, like, my body odor, any human odors, from deer and whatever. So I don't know if it was smelling me or the ozonics, but it definitely smelled something. And that's kind of when I got a little panicky. So what it did is it turned a little, and it walked off. Now it's maybe 30 yards in front of me. So I did have a camera on me on my right-hand side that I was going to, like, videotape my hunt with. But I wasn't able to get the arm turned and bent enough to the direction of where this Bigfoot was. So I just kind of left it alone. I didn't know, what to do. I was in a little bit of a panic state. I was trying to stay calm. What it proceeded to do was there were some really big logs that were stacked on top of each other. It reached down behind it, and it was kind of, you could see it moving the whole log and everything. It grabbed something. I don't know what it had in its hand. I'm not going to speculate. I have no idea. So it turns around, and it starts to come back toward me. That's when I kind of really got into a panic, like my heart was pounding, but I was trying to stay, be cognitive and pay attention to the whole situation. It gets back to almost its original position, but a little farther to my left, maybe 35 yards now, and there's like a really big oak tree. I mean, one of those oak trees that it would take 3 people to wrap their arms around. I happen to have one in my area there. It steps behind it, and this is the part that it took me a while to actually share this with people. So it steps behind it, and 1 foot comes out on the other side of the tree. As it would proceed to bring, the next leg out to take a second step, as it does that, during that second step, it disappears. I mean, it totally disappears, and there's what I try to say, it's a flash of a blue light, and I compare it to back in the day, the old TVs that when you would turn the power off on the TV, you'd get the blue line across the TV. That is what I saw. Right then, I didn't know what to do. I was in, I had severe anxiety right then. So that's kind of what's led me in this direction, because I had experienced something. But, you have to stay grounded.
Oddly enough, this is not the first time I've heard that, if you can believe that. I have someone that I know very well who I've known her for a long time, and she had the same experience, that she saw something actually appear from a blue light. So, and it was a Sasquatch, so it was just like the, of course, no one else believed her, and I didn't want to believe her either, and I felt like it was like everybody just did not know how to take it at all. But she and another person swear they saw it. So, go ahead, Rick.
So, you mean a flash like a lightning bolt flash? Like that?
Basically like that color. That color blue, but it was vertical, up and down, not,
Wow.
it was just really quick.
There was
came
no,
out.
there was no crash or boom afterwards?
Nothing. There wasn't a sound. There wasn't a noise. And my anxiety, I was kind of like in a hyper state at that time when that happened. So I was like, let's say, super focused because I was keyed in on where it was going. Because my main objective is, how am I going to get out of the tree stand? Where's this thing going to go? What's the whole situation? And then when it got there by that tree, and when it came, I'm thinking it's going to come out and it's going to keep going, up that other direction where it came from. And when it got to that tree, it was just one step. The second step was coming out, and bam, it was like I didn't hear anything. It was just like it dematerialized. It was just that quick.
Let me ask you, what was your lighting like at this particular time? Is it dark then?
Well, no, it wasn't fully dark. It was, I would call it just before shooting light was going to be up. I don't remember specific time because I didn't look at a watch or anything. Like I said, I was keyed in on what was happening. I was actually so scared that I left my camera, I left most of my gear except my bow. I took my bow with me when I got down, and I got back to the vehicle so fast. I got in, I locked the doors, and I just sat there because I didn't know what to do.
Of course.
And for a little while,
I wouldn't do either if I saw something like that. I mean, that would just rock my world. I'll be honest with you. That would rock my world if I saw something like that. Because I think that I sort of have everything figured out. But when you see something like that, and you seem to me to be a logical person, and because of the way you've explained everything that's happened up until now, it's extremely straightforward and very descriptive. And then this happens. So what'd you do?
Like I said, so I didn't really tell anybody. It took a good month and some change before I decided to say anything. So the way I looked at it is, I have to be true to myself, regardless of what anybody else thinks. So by being true to myself, I'm being true to my research. So I have to be honest, and I have to say what it is. So I did a video. I came home that one day, it was in December. I did a live video stream on my YouTube channel. I was actually sitting in my bedroom. I put the laptop out on my bed, and I proceeded to tell everybody what I just told you. And during that,
what were
really
the reactions? I really want to know what the reactions were, because I'm going to say about 50-50. About 50% of the people totally believed you, and the other 50 probably didn't. Am I right?
Actually, it was a little bit more that believed me. I actually had an outpouring of people in this paranormal community that follow this situation. That came to me and, started talking and asking questions and all kinds of stuff. But the weird thing that happens, that there's so many theories and hypotheses that people follow in this field. I used to be the old school guy. Let me say that. I used to do, in the beginning, I was knocking on trees and hooping and hollering and doing everything everybody else used to do until this, changed me. But so I'm doing this video, and during the video, right at the end almost, like the last 5 or 10 minutes, I'm talking with people, telling them what happened, and something in my house gets thrown. So off to the left corner, it sounds like a rock is thrown in my house. And I'm frantic for a second. You can see me in the video, I stop talking and I look over, and one of my family members comes to the bedroom door, and I'm like, hey, did you throw something at me? And she was like, no, why would I do that? She had her arms full with clothes. And I was like, well, because something just happened. And everybody in the video was like, oh, my God, you had something thrown at you. It's the Bigfoot, it's the Sasquatch. And I try to draw a line there, but I can't deny what happened because it happened and it's right on video. So I have to stay grounded. So being a researcher, I have to look at every aspect. The minute I close an aspect off, that means essentially I'm saying, hey, I have a theory and I've solved this, because I haven't. So I have to look at what everybody's doing, what the paranormal world is doing, what the quantum world is doing, what the flesh and blood world is doing. I have to pay attention to it all, and I try to put it together. And I'm the type of guy that I want one answer for everything that this species does. So to talk about some of my theories and stuff, ideas or hypotheses that I've come up with, I like one answer. So a lot of people say, well, this thing can cloak, and this thing, can mind speak, and I know it can disappear because I've seen it myself. So I started thinking. So that's where I started reading into quantum physics and ley lines and so many different things. But the hypothesis that I'm trying to follow is, how can I answer these questions? So how can I answer, well, it cloaks and it mind speaks in one answer. And what I believe that can answer this is frequencies, or magnetic frequencies. There's some way that it must be able to manipulate either magnetic fields or what are called Higgs fields. Like the Higgs field is thought to exist everywhere. It's not magnetism. It's just kind of energy. So
yeah, it's an energy field.
Right. There's so many different types of energy. I even started looking into what's called 0-point energy. It's like the lowest form of energy. So I tried to relay this sort of. It's hard to get it all out, but back in the day, if you remember, you would take a cell phone into your car, and if you had the radio on, it would make this static noise. They would kind of interact with each other, which it's from frequencies. Well, a lot of people interference, correct. So a lot of people are saying, well, it has infrasound and it beams this infrasound at you, and stuff like that.
I've always believed that. I've felt that before. It's more like an energy, because if you're ever really, really close to them, sometimes there's a lot of energy coming from them, and I always thought that it was infrasound or even my own anxiety, but it got to the point where I would have to back up. I couldn't let them get that close to me because I felt almost like an energy field coming off of them, but I didn't know whether it was anxiety or infrasound or.
I believe you're on the right track. That's
okay.
The infrasound. I can't see that it's beaming a sonic wave at you. Basically, what it is we vibrate. Okay, we're all energy. There's energy everywhere. So I think the human body resonates at like 528 kilohertz. So if our energy comes in contact with their energy, which ultimately is probably stronger than our energy, we would feel that. So basically, like if you correlate that to the radio and the cell phone, they interact. Mm-hmm. So that's what happens. So when we get close to them, we have that AKA zapped feeling. I can't see that they're sitting there beaming infrasound at you, but it's all related to frequencies and so on and so forth.
Would this account for equipment failing, batteries going dead? Would that have any connection there?
100% it can. Like I said, 0-point energy is one of the lowest forms of energy, and that also, and so is infrasound. Infrasound, I believe, is like 20. I can't remember what it is, 20 kilohertz or something, 20 hertz maybe, but it's a low frequency also.
So if a human being is exposed to 0-point energy, how does it make them feel?
Well, if you've ever watched, there was a gentleman online years back. It's called the Hutchinson effect. He actually
I don't know what that is. But...
Okay. He actually taps into a sort of this energy. He has all this old military equipment in his house, and he's actually able to bend metals, levitate things, sort of stuff that like Tesla was following, but a lot of Tesla's work, actually a lot of Tesla's work came ideas from like the shamans and stuff like that. But that effect is, they say they use it on like they used it on the Philadelphia experiment and stuff like that. It's all that high resonance energy. So we can get headaches, we can vomit. Some people have reported passing out. Some people, I've had it happen to me once. My head felt like it was on fire. I had to retreat out of the area. I had to back up. My eyes and nose were watering. But as I proceeded to get away, it felt like, I felt better. The farther I got away, the better I felt. So I've been trying to stay grounded and try to tie all these things in to come up like with an answer. So that's kind of where I'm at. And as of recently, I started looking into magnetics and poles and stuff like that because I'm trying to say, in the beginning, I really thought that these tree structures were made by them so they could, let's say, follow them from one to the next to the next. But what I started thinking is, okay, so the Earth is, let's say, a negative, and trees have energy. Sodium is a high-energy conductor. You can look it up. They're trying to make batteries out of it at this time. So if you entangle trees to make it like an electrical circuit, let's say, maybe that's why they're building it, and that's why they all look different, so the proper amount of energy flows. These are just all these different ideas that I'm looking into. So recently I took some magnets out with me into the field, some neodymium magnets. And we all know that if you can put magnets together on one side, and on the other side, the reverse poles, they repel each other. So in the middle of that, there's a ball of, per se, energy, right? So what I wanted to do is keep that energy because it's like a vortex. If you actually add other things in the middle, it can create a spin. But what I wanted to do was get that to these structures and actually see what happened. So as of yesterday, I did the experiment in the woods, and I actually just posted the video on my YouTube channel. So what I did is I went out there and I put the magnets together, and on the side I used regular washers, and I had some copper in the middle, kind of for like a conductor, superconductor, let's say. And as they stayed together, there's like that energy ball in the middle. So all of a sudden, I don't know how to explain this, but I say it in the video, that the whole atmosphere in the woods changed. It's sort of that feeling like you're being watched. So I don't know what that meant. So I'm trying to talk and get my words out, but they're actually not fluent. And a few people actually said that about the video, and I was just like, So anyway, I proceed to go back over to the magnets, and I disassemble them. And as I'm disassembling them, over my right hand, you can see what everybody would call an orb. It looks like it shoots out of the ground, and this flash of light goes flying, 20 or 30 yards behind me. So to me, that's interesting because does that say that,
Did it come from the magnets, or did it come from the ground?
It looked like it came from right by me, and it's this white light. But the funny thing is, it happens as soon as I pull the magnets apart. So I kneel back down, and you can hear me and see me pull the magnets back apart, and I just retract my hands toward my body a little bit, and then right behind me is this white orb, and it has an arcing motion, and it disappears, and it's gone, and I actually caught that on film. So is this magnetics leading me somewhere? I don't know. But like I said, if we don't,
I have a huge question for you. Is your area located anywhere near the Hudson Valley?
I am not.
Okay.
Do you know? I mean, I sit. How do I say this?
The reason why I say this is I know some young ladies that are researching up in the Hudson Valley, and the first time I talked to them, they were just, the old time researchers, and then the next time they contacted me and they said, we've got it figured out, and I said, really? And they told me that they were interdimensional. I mean, they went from one to the other. And that's why I just thought it was interesting that this is also in New York. And I wondered if maybe there's something going on, or maybe the two areas are close together, but they're not. So I was trying to find a correlation here. Because I try to do that. I try to make it fit sometimes where it's not going to fit. And I try to be open-minded, and I give everyone a fair chance to tell their ideas and theories, because there's a lot of different people out there, and I can't continue to not hear what people are finding out there. I need to share that more of a wide circle, I guess you could say. So go ahead.
I completely understand.
Yes.
It could be maybe because I live near Lake Erie. They always say water has energy, but there's also another theory out there by a gentleman, Alfred Watkins, from years ago. It had to do with I think he was from Britain. It's kind of like he found an alignment of structures like Stonehenge and Greek temples and things like Machu Picchu and all that sort of stuff. So I started paying attention.
My friend is going to love this show. I'm just going to tell you right now, this is right up her alley. She's going to love this show. This show's for you, Rhonda. But go ahead, sir. So
he started following these structures, and they would fall in a line. So I started following what are ley lines, I don't know if the Hudson in my area actually line up, but I'd have to check it on the map. But you will get a lot of high energy. They talk about how the sun and the ley lines align with solstices, and that's why like megalithic structures and things like the Georgia Guidestones, you'll notice they'll have like a hole that's cut out in them, and the sun rays will beam down through it and shoot a different way. Well, back in the day, the megalithic structures were built like that. We don't really know why. A lot of people, can speculate, but I think it all has to refer back to energy. And since I've witnessed what I witnessed, I have to stay grounded in the research, and it's hard to prove anything unless I bring some type of scientific experiments to the field like I started doing to appease myself and everybody else. Because we know that both groups, the flesh and blood and the paranormal, are at each other's, at wit's end here. So you have to stay grounded in your research. It's hard to present, any proof, but when you get something like that where you're putting magnets and energy on a structure, and then you have an orb light ball that kind of comes out of it in the middle of the daytime, it's interesting. So to me, I stopped.
Yes, it is. I would have to say so. And this video is also on your Western New York Bigfoot.
Yes, ma'am.
YouTube page too. Okay. We'll have to go check this out.
Because I'm trying to look at it like I was explaining earlier, that maybe they're using these tree structures as energy spots. A lot of people talk about portals, and even NASA talks about portals. So it's not something that's just water under the bridge. So I don't believe they're from another planet or anything like that crazy talk. But what I do believe there's some type...
Yeah, and we're terrible on this channel about making fun of portal jumpers, and we do, and we should be more mature about it to quit making fun of portal jumpers. But go ahead. I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but
no, I completely understand. I mean, I was the same way. I did the same thing. When people talked about it, I was like, that's not possible. I think some people go above and beyond, but I think you just need to document the facts and share what the facts are. And when you do that, more and more people will contact you and start saying, hey, this is what I experienced, this time, this place, this is what happened. And we could start to tie these things together because it's like this universal oneness is what it seems like. So back to the structures, I looked at it as, okay, a deer, a bear, all these animals that are in tune with the earth, they don't need guidance through the woods. So why would this Sasquatch being, this universal being that stayed hidden for who knows how long, is able to stay hidden, but yet they're going to build these structures and we're going to be able to see them, and they needed to follow them, and the families need to follow them, and it leads to water or these other places. It just didn't make sense. So I'm looking at it as...
You're right about that. It doesn't. That does not make sense because you're right. They would know those woods better than anybody.
Exactly. So I started looking at it as maybe these are the high energy spots where they can come and go to. If they're able to, I know they're able to, but if I don't know how is what I'm saying. I know that they can disappear and obviously reappear. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know if it's manipulation of the Higgs field or what it is, or using ley lines. This is where I'm at in my research. I'm trying to tie it all together by doing, off-the-wall experiments. If it takes magnetics, if it takes certain lens filters, to let my 4K cameras have more light or see in a different spectrum that we can't see, that's kind of where I'm at with this.
Well, someone would ask you, are you absolutely sure that you saw it disappear, that you didn't second guess yourself after you saw that? Did you?
I would tell them 100%. I have no flaw, no deviation. I did not pass out. I did not see it. What I seen is and what I related to you is exactly what happened. I don't know why it happened. I don't know how it happened, but that's exactly what happened.
I think it happens more than people might think, because I think it may happen, but people just explain it away as I must have blinked, I must have turned my head. They refuse to believe that something actually happened like that, so they explain it away. It's kind of like when you see a ghost. I didn't really see that. That was just the light coming from the window, or it was a car light going by, or they'll make they'll completely debunk it,
well,
because
if you look at
they don't want to believe that it's something else. They don't want to go there. They don't want to be a woo-woo. They don't want to do it, So, I admire you for speaking up about this, and I really admire the fact that you're trying to you're trying to use science to figure it out, and you're obviously doing a great deal of research into different areas just to try to find ways to figure it out. So I'm quite impressed by that, and I think so are a lot of people out there, because you're obviously very well liked, and
I appreciate that.
I think that there are people out there very interested in what you were coming up with. So anyway, continue. I didn't want to interrupt, but I just wanted to say that.
I don't really know where to go from here, but like I said, I'm going to try to continue using, different lens filters. A lot of it comes out of the research and reading that I do, and then I say, hey, how can I apply this, because I've noticed that where people talk about these high energy vortexes that the Earth gives off, like this Sedona area and all these other areas, you get a lot of reports of paranormal things. You get a lot of reports of aliens and Bigfoot. So I don't know if they're drawn to this, but I think there's something we're not understanding. So, I mean, as long as we stay grounded and try to pay attention to this stuff, it's hard when you don't have a ton of proof. I've got but what is proof? You know, I've got a lot of photos. I've got decent photos. I've caught things on video. I don't know what it's going to take to actually prove this, but I can continue to try to, send in any samples that we do get, for DNA testing or, whatnot. But a lot of people say...
One of the theories that I heard was that they vibrate at a much higher speed. That's how they, let's see, who I was talking to someone about. I get a lot of people that just contact me and talk theories over with me. And this one fellow that I talked to said that he believes that they vibrate, that their metabolism, or not their metabolism, but their energy field vibrates at a much higher speed than ours.
Right.
And that sometimes they can be standing right in front of you and you can't see them. They're there, but you can't see them, but if a photograph will pick up a blurry spot. It's been one time we were on the Sulphur River here in Texas, and we were taking pictures of a formation. And what was so strange was we took like 3 or 4 pictures, but there was one spot that was blurred. And it was the same spot no matter what angle we took the picture from. We thought at first, well, it's something on the lens, but when you looked at it, it wasn't anything on the lens because you were in a different position each time you took that picture. And it was just the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. I couldn't understand, what is that? I mean, what could have been causing that? Could it have been like a small gas coming up maybe? Or let me tell you what, we tried to figure out everything under the sun. But when this guy was talking about that, I immediately thought about that. But then I go, nah, because I think I would have known if there was one nearby. But, and it was daylight. I mean, it was bright, sunny afternoon, so I don't know. But
a lot of people
hear some amazing stories. I hear some very amazing stories.
I think what it boils down to is we just need to be more open-minded and not think that we know everything. I don't know everything. You don't. The next person don't. And until we start correlating this and talking amongst each other and sharing a lot of things and getting people into the areas so maybe they can experience it. And that's one of the biggest problems is people will come here or go there for a day or two and they don't experience it. It takes people a whole summer to get where they're at, or 5 years or 20 years. And if you notice, the people that have been doing this for 20 or 30 years have ultimately kind of just slid over to this quantum realm. I don't like to say big names or anything, but even people like Mr. Gimlin and all these people are starting to talk about things that have happened to them. If you really pay attention to researchers and even people going into the field, doing it for fun, they all get to one point and they kind of hit a wall in their research and things just stop happening. And it's like you have a choice between 2 paths. And if you start to follow the evidence, just strictly the evidence alone, or things that have been happening, it will lead you into this area. It's not where I wanted to go. It's not, I've seen both sides of this. I've seen your metaphysical and I've seen your physical state. But we really have to, we got to do something about it. I mean, there's a lot of people that...
Yes. I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to say something very quickly. I totally agree with you because what happens is after you've reached a certain point, you come to a fork in the road. Either you can continue on the same path you've been going on and not really finding out anything more, or you can go the other way. And I agree with that. But I'm going to tell you something. If you're out there any length of time, it's going to happen to you. Something strange is going to happen. If you get out there enough, it's going to happen. And I'm going to tell everyone out there, it will happen. Something strange will happen to you. You can't explain. I mean, I've been doing this for 17 years, and I have seen things I can't explain, and I'll only talk about them around the campfire. And there's nobody. I'll lie if you try to stand me down and say I said it. I saw it. Yeah. There's a lot of people like that have had experiences that they don't mind telling about, around a campfire, but they're not going to tell it on a radio show. They're not gonna share it with just everybody out there. They're not going to put it on a Facebook post. They're just not, But,
I understand, but to me, it's I really don't care where people throw me or see me or put me. I'm following the evidence and I'm doing what I need to do.
Right.
To get where I need to go. If I'm going to be able to prove this or put it together or figure it out, I still have to take the right steps. I have to, I had to contact our local DNR. I had to, get permits to do things and a lot of things.
What do you tell them that you're doing when you're going out there?
When you file for a TRP permit, you have to tell them exactly what you're doing. And this all came about because on our state lands, you're not allowed to use trail cameras. So, which nobody really knew about. I mean, I've been hunting my whole life. A lot of people I know, everybody used trail cameras. So once I started getting some objective photos, and I think they seen it either online or whatever it may be, they had tracked down my cameras, and they had taken all my stuff down. My habituation area, all my cameras, and I get a phone call. And they said, this is the local forestry. I need to meet with you. I said, okay. I meet with them, and he's got all my stuff. And he proceeded to talk to me and everything. And, I had to tell him what I was doing. They look at you a little odd, but I did videotape the whole interaction. And to a sense, I believe that they may know that they're there because the one gentleman says, well, this area is for endangered species. And I said, well, there's state land, another section of state land a mile down the road, which is another 5,000 or 6,000 acres. He's like, well, yeah, you can use cameras over there, but you can't use them over here because it's for endangered species. And I'm thinking to myself, endangered species, so what, the endangered species know to just stay on this property? They don't travel?
That was exactly what I was thinking. Go ahead.
Exactly. So I was like, to me, that response was more of, he was talking about the Sasquatches, like they knew that they were there. And was really odd about this certain area. On one end of this area, you can camp. And there's a couple of lean-tos, and that's it. And you're allowed to camp on this far-end section. On any other section of this property, you cannot camp. And I've tried and tried and tried to get permits to camp there until finally the forestry officer hung up on me. They will not let you camp on these other sections for no reason whatsoever. And it's because
why.
I know why. It's because they know. That's my opinion. But it's neither here nor there because I don't have the proof.
But do they give you an explanation? As to why not? Is it
his explanation
thing again? Or?
No, his explanation is because I said no.
Oh.
That's how it went.
Oh.
But who knows? I just, like I said, I just tried to put this all together in a down to earth, manner. You know, you can get all the empirical data, and you got to be objective because you can't be biased. That's the thing. That's why I like to take my other friends, researchers, with me, and when we go out, you know, some of them haven't experienced a Bigfoot, and I don't lead them in any direction. I just say, form your own opinion. Whatever you see, whatever we find, form it for yourself, because I don't want to be any bearer of that on them. I'm just trying to say, hey, this is what I've experienced. I'll take you to certain areas, and maybe we'll have something happen. And then when it does happen, explain it to me. You know, that's how I...
Yeah. So, where do you go from here?
I think I would just, I got to keep doing what I'm doing until I get some really definitive proof. I mean, like I said, we're still arguing over the Patty footage. It's been scrutinized. Like I said, a lot of people say the only way we're going to prove this is with a body. I 100% agree. Not that I would want to kill one. I would love to find a specimen that has died of natural causes or something like that. But I think that's ultimately the direction we have to go to get this proven. I mean, regardless of whatever camp you're in, we're both trying to do the same thing. So maybe if I bring a little bit of science or, you know, crazy ideas to this paranormal field, maybe the people from the old school field will just say, hey, you know, let's just take a look at it. Let's entertain it, because he's trying to use, you know, magnetics and science and mathematics and numbers that we can use. And if something happens, maybe we can find a common ground.
Well, I have to ask you, are you the only one doing this, or have you run into others that are investigating in the same direction?
In the same direction, I know maybe 5 people. Dr. Johnson is one of them. A gentleman, Mr. Patterson, he's had all kinds of things happen to him. There's a few other nice ladies that I've met. There's a lot of people, like you said, that are doing this, but A, don't want to be talked about, and B, aren't saying anything about it. A gentleman who's, you know, been respected for a long time, Ron Moorhead, he had the Sierra Sounds. You know, I talked to him quite a few times. He sent me actually some of his books, which are interesting. That's the realm he has entertained. Same as Mr. Gimlin, I've heard. You know, you could see him online talking about certain things. People that have been doing this and spending this amount of time in the woods are changing their whole perspective on things. You know, I hunted my whole life. I still continue to hunt to this day. I never thought I'd see a Bigfoot. I never thought I'd be entertaining any of this. You know, I'm out there looking for deer or bear or whatever it is. That's the sign I was looking for. I wasn't looking for anything else until it just kind of like falls in your lap, and then you're awakened. That's the best way to say it, because then you look around and you're like, how did I miss all this?
Yeah.
I don't.
That's how it would look. Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's kind of like, you know, I was in the woods a lot, and I mean all the time. And I fished and I camped and everything, and I didn't ever think there was anything out there. I never thought there was Bigfoot out there. In fact, I was so thought Bigfoot was just a bunch of hooey that I wouldn't even watch. I never watched the Patterson Gimlin footage. I never watched Creature from Boggy Creek or any of that. I mean, I would watch the Loch Ness Monster and other stuff, but never any Bigfoot. I mean, that's how I totally didn't believe in it. So, you know, you can not believe something, but seeing is believing. I believe that is really true. It's like people didn't believe there were UFOs, but they see those. Same way with ghosts and other paranormal things, you know. So there's people have seen dogmen and werewolves, and we've had those people on the show, so it's just not that far out.
You made it.
Go ahead.
We did have a quick question from the chat.
Okay.
Kind of backtracking a little bit. One of our listeners wants to know, did the Forestry Service ever identify their endangered species?
No, they never did tell me what they were referencing as far as endangered species. If you go on my YouTube channel, Western New York Bigfoot, I think the name of the video is Bigfoot and Forest Rangers, and it's like a 20 or 30-minute interaction, and you can hear him say that it's for endangered species. I should have asked, but I didn't really want to pry.
Right.
Yeah, you didn't want to get, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm always, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Lauren, sorry. Well, I was just going to say, I've always had I'm just one of these big conspiracy theorists. I believe the government is well aware of them. I believe that our state forests and national parks are refuges for this endangered species. And I think that the forest rangers, maybe some of them know, but not all of them. And they're just not allowed to talk about it. And I think if you had flat out asked that one, what endangered species are you talking about, he would have come up with something like some kind of weird woodpecker. It would have told you something. But it wouldn't have been what you wanted to hear, for sure.
Right.
Ricky, Lauren, Beth, do you have any questions? We've got about 6 minutes left.
No. I had one, but it totally ran away.
It's kind of hard when you're looking into this sort of thing. I mean, by all rights, I want it to be flesh and blood and just walk around and whatever. But I can't do that anymore. I mean, I have to stay open to everything. I can't just say it's not, because I don't know what it is. I don't have all the answers. Nobody does. But little by little, I think you're going to start seeing more of a shift toward this, because more and more people are going to be experiencing it and wanting to talk about it. It's just, I mean, even if you look at our science field, where they're going, I mean, they've got the Hadron Collider smashing particles together, and an atom is made up of a vortex. So maybe that tells us something. That I don't know, but
well, it's kind of like with me. I just really want them to be flesh and blood. I want them to be like a human relative, sort of. A human hybrid, like from the family of humans. Like the Native Americans always thought them to be, some of them thought them to be just their neighbors. They were just a different tribe of people. And I guess that's the way I've always wanted to look at it. So it's hard for me to let go of that. I don't think they're fuzzy teddy bears or anything like that. But to me, I feel like that I want to believe that they're, I want to feel like I'm close to figuring out what they are, but it seems like the longer that I'm in this, the less I know. And that's the truth.
I will give all the listeners a quick idea of how I got to where I'm at really quick. I'll give them kind of like a layout of what they could do as long as they have the right permits. So trust is the main factor with this species, whatever it is. So I kind of have like a guideline here. So if you go to your area and you find your biggest structure, they made it out of trees or whatever, and continue to frequent it. Just don't pass them by. take photos, and maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, go back, check it out, take more photos, compare the photos. If that structure is in fact being added to with more sticks or whatever that structure, how it's put together, if it's being added to, that tells you that they're coming there for a reason during a specific time. Start habituating. I don't condone it 100%, but if you do it, I did it for 3 to 4 days a week, same time, same place.
So
6
habituating, what you mean by habituating is that you are gifting or leaving food?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And what happened is, in the beginning, when we would come into the woods, they would flee. They would take off. And that's what you see in a lot of people's videos. Bam, they're gone. Little by little, they would only go so far, and then they'd sit and watch us. And then, it got to the point where they were maybe just at 100 yards, and we knew they were there. They'd make noise. They'd rock clack. They'd yell. We'd catch audio. We have language that's been analyzed. And in the language, you'll hear what they look for is morphemes and phenoms. And what that does is the way it's broke down is it's indicative of a language, which I share on my SoundCloud page, Ryan Reading, where they can hear some of that. But once you start habituating, same time, same place, like an OCD type of thing, like because that's how they are. They've stayed hidden forever, no matter what they are. So that's what I did, and the trust factor got to be really good, it seemed, between us. And that's kind of when I varied in the beginning, and I tricked them. I didn't have up no cameras or anything at the time I was doing this. And then once the interactions became really prevalent, I hid 3 cameras, and that is how I got some of my good photos. Some of them I shared, with one of you guys. From them. But what it did is it upset them ultimately, and for like a month they didn't come back around. But if you follow those steps, and you're in a good area, core area, you may have some good interactions. It may lead you this direction, it may lead you whatever direction you want to go, but like I said, I have to stay open to all of it, because if I don't, I'm lying to myself and my research.
Well, Ryan, you were really a fascinating guest. I have to say that I don't believe we've ever had a guest that addressed Bigfoot in the way that you did, and I know there's a lot of people out there that have had similar experiences, and I know they're going to be glad that I finally had somebody on that has had an experience like this. But I just want to tell you that I really wish you luck. I hope you figure this out. I think if anybody can, you will. If you just got the tenacity for it.
I appreciate that.
I really think you will. And I hope you'll keep in touch. And if you find out anything, we'd like to bring you back so we can hear what you've discovered, if you don't mind. We'd love to have you back. And
sure.
I want to thank you so much for coming on. We've run out of time, and we have to go. So